welcome to another video. I'm Beth, and today I wanted to introduce you to my latest library haul. One of my goals for the year was to share the books that I'm borrowing from the library with you. Whether or not that I'm going to be reading them before they're due back is always a question, but it's still kind of fun to show you what made me gravitate toward these books in particular and which ones I'm most excited about reading. When I bring my book bag home from the library, I immediately add it to this little cloth basket, and if something has been there for weeks upon weeks upon weeks and I haven't even thought about picking it up, then I probably need to return it.
Maybe we can make a pile of all the books that you have. Not sure how many you have.
1, 2, 3. I don't know a whole lot about these plot-wise. I kind of have to become reacquainted with them by the time they arrive. The first one is still pretty fresh in my mind, and that is Champion of Fate by Kendare Blake. This is a fantasy novel set in a world where heroes need hero makers. And our main character is a hero maker, and so she is assigned to her first hero, and there are some unexpected challenges in their relationship, and ultimately the heroes are the ones who take the credit for the success of their quest. The premise of this one is really interesting to me, having a society where women are the trainers or the guides for the male heroes, but their stories are pretty unwritten, unsung of. I'm interested to see how that plays out in a fantasy world. I believe it's a YA novel, and I haven't really heard people talk about it much except for when they added it to their want to read pile, just like I did. Recently, I got back into books that are set during the Roaring Twenties with I Capture the Castle and then A Sky Painted Gold. So I'm going to continue and follow that thread with one of the Book of the Month picks for spring, and that is The Mayor of Maxwell Street by Avery Cunningham. Set in the 1920s, and we're following a young black woman who is part of a affluent family, and she is going undercover to expose the corruption in the local government. I believe the mayor is corrupt, and so she's kind of on assignment to figure out exactly what he's up to and expose that. And she's doing that in the position of a journalist. The journalism component as well as espionage of it all is really interesting to me, and I believe that this is her debut. I decided to go ahead and borrow it from the library. It's exactly the same height as Champion of Fate, but just a few more pages. This should be a fun historical fiction if I'm looking for another one of those. I have an unexpected memoir that has been added to my TBR, and I initially picked this up and started reading from it, and I thought it was historical fiction because the prose is just so beautifully descriptive. It just pulled me right into the scene. But it's actually a memoir, and it is How to Say Babylon by Safiya Sinclair. How to Say Babylon is Sinclair's reckoning with the culture that initially nourished but ultimately sought to silence her. It is her reckoning with patriarchy and tradition and the legacy of colonialism in Jamaica. Rich in language only a poet could invoke, How to Say Babylon is both a universal story of a woman finding her own power and a unique glimpse into the rarefied world we may know by name, Rastafari, but one we know little about. When I was searching on the library catalog for this one, I already had the cover just imprinted in my brain. Jamaican colors, the italic hand-lettered font, and the bold image of a woman cutting her locks. I look forward to giving this one a read. The next book is a novel that has one of my favorite tropes, which is a book about books, and that is The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. In this novel, we're following Cassie, who works in a New York City bookstore. She spends most of her days shelving books, serving customers coffee, and visiting with her favorites. Until one day, one of her favorite customers keels over at the table, and he's left behind for her 2 books. One of them is The Book of Doors. And so a new world opens for this character, one where she'll need some expert help. Also discovers that she has a new enemy. This looks very interesting, and I think that the Endpapers for this one are especially gorgeous. Got the repeated motif of a door with stairs that are also books throughout. And of course there is some nice gold foiling on the cover, which is always a win in my book. Next I have a fantasy novel called AAR Wilder Magic by Allison Saft. This story is centered on the unlikely alliance and unexpected romance between a sharpshooter and an alchemist. And that pairing is a requirement for these two to be allowed to participate in a great hunt. The hunt is held, I believe, once a year, and its purpose is to take down the last of dangerously mythical creatures in this world, and the winner will come away with prizes that will change their entire life. So they have a lot at stake in this game, and I'm not sure what happens from there. Interested in giving this book a read, especially because Allison Saft recently came out with a book that also looked interesting to me, so I decided I should go back a little bit and give this a try. I know that this is a favorite. It's been on my Storegraph TBR for some time, so I thought I would give it a borrow. Another brand new release, The Antique Hunter's Guide to Murder by C.L. Miller. Freya Lockwood is shocked when she learns that Arthur Crockleford, antique dealer and her estranged mentor, has died under mysterious circumstances. She's spent the last 20 years avoiding her quaint English hometown, but when she receives a letter from Arthur asking her to investigate, sent just days before his death, Freya has no choice but to return to a life she'd sworn to leave behind. Joining forces with her eccentric Aunt Carol, Freya follows clues and her instincts to an old manor house for an antiques enthusiast weekend. But not all is as it seems. It's clear to Freya that the antiques are poor reproductions, and her fellow guests are secretive and menacing. What is going on at this estate, and how is Arthur involved? More important, can Freya and Carol discover the truth before the killer strikes again? Welcome to The Antique Hunter's Guide to Murder. I feel like it's going to be a really fast-paced caper style story, and I'm excited to see what I think about it. Another new release that I was really excited to read this year. Last, and certainly least in the number of pages anyway, The Kamogawa Food Detectives by Hisashi Kashiwai. This book is totally a cover buy or cover borrow, if you will. It seems like it's gonna have some of the cozy vibes from what you were looking for is in the library, and each chapter is a different food dish. The detective element of this story is when they prepare this favorite dish for the customer, it unlocks a memory for them, maybe something that they haven't dealt with in their past, and it becomes a healing process. I don't know, that's my guess anyways. What's the one dish you'd do anything to taste just one more time? Down in a quiet back street in Kyoto exists a very special restaurant. Run by Koichi Kamogawa and her father, Nagari, the Kamogawa diner serves up deliciously extravagant meals. But that's not the main reason customers stop by. The father-daughter duo are food detectives. Through ingenious investigations, they're able to recreate dishes from a person's treasured memories, dishes that may well hold the keys to unlocking their forgotten past and future happiness. The Restaurant of Lost Recipes provides a link to vanished moments, creating a present full of possibilities. This is a Japanese bestseller, and it is recommended for fans of Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I didn't particularly love, but I did like the concept, so I'm excited to give this one a read. I think it's going to be short but sweet. After I finished filming this book haul, I had 3 more holds come in at the library, and I don't want to make another video about just 3 books, so I decided to go ahead and cap this with a surprise 3 more books. First off, I have Good Material by Dolly Alderton. I have not read anything else by Dolly Alderton, so this is definitely just a trial and error read. Apparently, this is a love story that has 2 possible endings, and we're following Andy, who has recently been broken up by his girlfriend, needs to find a new place. He's also waiting for his stand-up career to take off, so I'm hoping that there's going to be great humor in here. I don't know. Again, I haven't read Dolly Alderton before, but my guess is that there's going to be some humorous dialogue, and I think it'll be an enjoyable read. I also got Welcome to the Hyunam-Dong Bookshop by Bo-Reum. I think that this one is also going to be a fun short story-esque book, but I can't tell. That's just my guess based on the length of it. This one is actually a Korean bestseller. The cover is super cute, and I love the illustration with like the purple cold night outside and the warm cozy glow from the bookshop. It really sets the atmosphere up for me. The back cover has just 2 sentences. It says, "There was only one thing on her mind. I must start a bookshop." Sold. One more historical fiction, and this came recommended to me by Gloria Z. Thompson. You can check out her channel using the link in the description box below, and that is The Frozen River by Ariel Lowen. This is a historical fiction set in Maine, 1789. We're following a story that actually happened, but the main character is a midwife. One winter in Maine, when the river freezes over, a body is discovered, and the midwife in question is drawn into the whole legal drama of this case. I don't know if she has testimony that's valuable to that case, if she saw something, or if she's even culpable in this incident, but I'm intrigued. I've heard that this is very suspenseful and moving, and while I don't love reading books about women in childbirth, I think that I'm going to make an exception for this one and see how I fare with it. The cover of this one leans into the winter vibes. We've got some cool blue tones and kind of a faked aerial shot over what looks to be a river in the midst of some forest. Photoshop, you guys. So those are the books that I've recently hauled. I'd love to hear from you. What's the last book that you borrowed from the library? Were there any in this stack that you are interested in borrowing from your own library? Let me know in the comments. Just a reminder, support your library. They are amazing places with amazing people that are helping your community in many ways that you might not personally experience, but we would be lost without them. Even if you're using the automatic checkout, make sure you say hi and thank the librarian this week. I'll see you in another video soon.